COVID was interesting. At the start, I thought I was done. When it's all happening, it's like, ScoMo's on the TV. What's happening? And you just, in the back of your mind, thinking like, I've worked so hard for this. I've gone through hell and back. I've gone through this. I've gone through that. I'm done.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Push Podcast. This is the podcast where we explore the real stories behind what makes entrepreneurs and business owners the successes they are today. I am Jack Ferguson, a small business growth strategist, and I will be your host. I believe the best way to learn and be inspired is to listen to the experiences and stories of those you respect. Their real experiences, their real story, warts and all. Honest storytelling is what this is all about. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Hello and thanks for tuning in to episode 9, season 2. Today's guest is Ash Reddy, founder of Chessmates. Ash has a great story, one in which he describes himself as someone who wasn't meant for success due to the adversity he grew up in. Founding his company 8 years ago, the growth has been anything but easy. We talk about how Ash got the business off the ground through cold calling, how he stayed under the radar of competitors for some time, why his first business didn't work out and what he would do differently in hindsight, and as you heard in the beginning, how COVID affected his company. A great entrepreneur who shares so much of his story. Let's meet Ash. Ash, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good, Jack. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. Really interested to talk to you about your story. And from the company you're running, it seems that you really like chess. You're a big believer in chess. Mm-hmm. Haven't had someone on the podcast before that is in this space, so it'll be really good to hear about your thoughts on everything. But I wanted to start with, you talk about how chess is something that can translate into sports and quick decision making and all these other skills in life. Can you talk to us? Let's start there and talk about how you teach people chess and how that can lead to all those other benefits.
Yeah, so I'd say I like chess, but I also love working with kids. And in terms of quick decision making, chess has always been great with so most people see it as like a board game. I see it more than a board game. I see it as an educational tool where with kids, they understand decision making, just like when they make their first move or whatever, there's a whole complexity of different moves they've got to do for their second move, and then their third move, and then their fourth move, and then going forward. And I've always thought with chess, why I call it an educational tool is that you can apply it to so many different things. So in the classroom, with science, maths, logical thinking, but then you've also got the sports side of things and those quick decision making, because every time you play chess, every move that you do is a decision, and more times that you do it, the more decision making you got to do it. And it's almost like flexing your own muscle, where you're doing it again and again and again. And the more times you do have to do decision making, the more times you're going to get better at it, because if you put it in a repetition, it really helps, and you just become better at it.
And I found it fascinating that you talked about it being for quick decision making, because I associate chess with slow decision making. Like you take your time, you think about what your next move is going to be. Yeah,
it takes time, but a lot of times as well, just say if you play faster games of chess, you have to make those quick snap decisions. And even though you take your time sometimes with it, you have to do it a little bit fast as well, and that's really important. Especially in life, you're not going to always have situations where you can just mull over things over days, and even if you run your own business, you can't mull over things for days or days. You have to think within the moments, right, I've got to do this, got to do that. And I think, especially from my perspective, chess has helped with me improving my decision making massively.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how have you observed that in other people that have learned chess and you've seen their decision making improve?
You get some younger ones who, when they start playing chess, they just have that analysis paralysis. So they'll look at the chessboard, they'll stay there for about 10 minutes or so, and they'll just be like, what do I do? What do I do? And they just keep thinking and thinking. And then I think they just get so bogged down about all the possibilities that they fear about what they're actually going to do, because they fear that the outcome is going to get one of their pieces going to get taken. But trying to take a step back, telling a story where, like, it's okay to be brave, it's okay to make mistakes. Making mistakes, what we try and encourage in our classes, is a wonderful thing, and you learn from it. And so I've got a few examples where this one girl I taught, she's, for probably about most of last year, just be like, come on, you can do a move. And then she was like, I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? And at first I'd help her out. It's like, no, come on, you got to do it. And eventually now she's like, all right, if this pawn's coming over here, I've got to like maybe move this pawn. But if I move this pawn, I've got to get taken. So I'll move the knight instead. So she's trying to do like a decision tree in her own mind. And while it hasn't been straight away, it takes a bit of time, but more exposure. And each week coming to chess, it's helped her become better at her decision making. And instead of like waiting for 10 minutes, she's probably waiting maybe about half a minute at most. And the other person that she's playing isn't getting so grumpy at her for taking for so long. Yeah.
Well, that sounds important. So why chess? Why not a different strategic game?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. But I think chess is a brilliant tool for kids. And with each character and with each piece, and you can attach a story to it, you can attach a song to it. And how I started off is, with teaching kids as young as 3 how to play chess. And if you teach them just by normal ways, like here's a chessboard and you go and play, kids aren't going to learn how to play that well through that. So what I've tried to do is get a story about each piece. So one of the stories is about the king. He loves living in a castle made out of pillows, collecting jewels, gets really upset. Then he goes to sleep, then he wakes up again, and then he looks for his jewels and finds out his jewels aren't there. They're actually outside, gets really upset, and then he goes downstairs, opens the door, but he's really scared because he's never been outside before. And so because he's scared, he moves one step at a time, and he takes one step and he picks up a jewel and he's like, oh, shiny. And so using that story is helping children understand how the king moves, and actually having fun with that as well. And then you add a song to it where it's like a Montessori song where about birthdays, like King Sparky moves one step at a time, tra-la-la, around and round he goes. And while I'm singing the song, I'm moving the king one step at a time. So it's helping kids understand how the pieces move. And even with younger ones, I might get them all to stand up, and when I clap my hands, they'll actually take a step forward and pretend that they're a king themselves. So it's trying to find different ways to actually help them understand how a piece moves, rather than just, just saying, here's a game and, how does the king move? Just one step. But if you add a narrative to everything like that, it makes kids enjoy it more and actually want to learn more as well. Yeah. Right.
And you talked about at 3. I mean, that's pretty young to be starting to get into that from the person who maybe is uninformed in the room, which is me.
Yeah.
So why that young? Why do they need to be playing chess at 3?
It helps with obviously with their decision making. And one of the big things at 3 is that most 3-year-olds, it's all about me, and they're not really thinking about others. But one of the big things about chess, and one of the reasons why I love teaching chess, is that you've got to think about others and not just yourself. And for 3-year-olds, it's quite difficult. And how I teach with kindergartens is you get 6 kids. You get 3 kids on one team, 3 kids on another team, and they're playing on the same chessboard. And so they're taking turns. And so for some children at the start that they don't like it, it's like, why can't I have all the turns? It's like, no, you have to learn to share. You have to learn to take turns. And after a while, it's actually really exciting to see, because you see those 3 kids and they might have done a few lessons together and they're starting to learn how to move all the pieces, and you can see if one of their pieces is about to get taken, and they'll just move another piece, and then you have another kid going, no, what are you doing? Your bishop's about to get taken. Move your bishop. And seeing a bunch of 3-year-olds actually working together as a team, it's so exciting to see. And just building up that teamwork, because when we're adults, we're also in our jobs, we're working with small teams, and we're starting to teach that from a very young age without really teaching them those skills. Like they're doing it themselves, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. And so are they going to have better skills, say 10, 20 years down the track? Is that what you're anticipating? Like, what will they look like? Someone who does this at 3 and then at 13, what are they going to be like compared to a different 13-year-old who didn't do it when they were so young?
The idea behind it is that, if they play chess at 3, the idea behind that is that they become better at their strategic thinking. Obviously, they're thinking about others, and obviously they're playing a game where they're not going to get their own way. So their emotional intelligence and emotional resilience is better than those who have not played chess. So where they might be losing all the time and everything like that, you have some kids who are just like, nah, I hate this, don't want to do it. But if they keep at it, keep working on it, and so by the time they're 3.5, they can play a proper game of chess, and they have more exposure to those situations where they have to do more decision making and they lose their pieces more. They're more likely when they're 13, 12 as a teenager, well, the hope is anyway that they're more emotionally resilient, and if things don't go their own way at school, so they get a B instead of an A in a maths exam or something like that, instead of cracking it, they'll be like, all right, I didn't do so well, that sucks, I hate that. But figuring out why, how I can do better on the next time.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind it is that if you teach those skills when they're 3, when they're 13, they can actually apply them, and even older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. So what got you into this in the first place? What got this business going?
So when I was at uni, I actually was a chess teacher, randomly, and I really enjoyed teaching chess. It was like my final year of uni, really enjoyed it, but I ended up, I didn't think I'll be teaching chess for the rest of my life. I ended up with my degree and went and stayed, but then a few years later, I came back to Brisbane, just didn't enjoy accounting, and I just thought, let's start doing something as a business where we would teach kids fitness. That went okay, didn't do so well. Then I ended up doing more with, becoming a tax accountant for a little bit. That ended, and then started a company where I was just teaching chess, fitness, and yoga. And we tried the chess, fitness, yoga, just pitching it to schools, pitching it to childcares. And what we noticed is that with childcares, they were saying, we don't have anything cognitive in childcares. It's all physical, it's all soccer, it's all running around. There's nothing where you get kids to actually sit down, and there were a lot of families who wanting their kids to be able to sit down and concentrate something for, let alone 10 minutes, let alone like half an hour. So that's where the idea came from, just, teaching kids chess, teaching chess to 3-year-olds. We didn't, at the time, have a massive plan. It was just very much on a whim, and it was very interesting back then, like, especially trying to come up with the idea of how to teach 3-year-olds chess. This was even before any stories or songs. I remember first time we did it, we just had a big human-sized chessboard, and the kids pretended to be pieces, and obviously that didn't work out, and we had to refine it again and again until we got it to where it is now, and it's pretty good.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you were trying to get this fitness stuff into child cares, and they were saying to you that they were giving you the feedback, we actually want something more like this. You took that and go, okay, I think chess can solve that problem.
Yep.
Do you remember that day when you realised that?
Yeah. I remember it was, this is ages ago, it was probably back at the start of 2013, and just being like, all right, this is what we got to do, just pretty much going all in with the chess. I think it was the first time, it was like basically a cold call, and the lady was just going like, why don't you come in for a trial? It was our very first trial, and I just thought to myself, right, we're not going anywhere with like the yoga or the fitness or anything like that. Let's just do chess. Just give it a go. Just let's make this work. And that was probably one of the light bulb moments there, where it's just like, let's do it. Let's give it a go. And look, it took forever to get our first client, 13 childcares. But when we finally got that first client, was pretty bloody good.
So did you pitch 13 childcares, or you cold called 13 childcares? What do you mean by 13 childcares?
All right, so we probably called about 200, like pretty much
Yeah,
most of the childcares in Brisbane.
Yeah.
But then these 13 childcares were like, right, you can come and do a trial class. So basically we would come in, just set up our chessboards and just say, hey, look, you know, like we took a few kids at a time, just say, hey, look, we're doing chess. This is what we're going to do. And basically ran the lesson that way and just said, hey, look, if your mum and dad want you to do chess, get them to sign up. Remember, lessons back then were like $5 a child. So it's like you can do chess. It would probably be one-on-one, be $5. How good. And we tried that at 12 childcares and no families actually signed up. So we had no kids. And they're like, oh, nice try. It looks pretty cool, but yeah, you didn't get anyone. And then that 13th one, we ended up getting 6 kids to sign up for the program. It was like really exciting. The director there actually helped really plug it. She actually put her kid in. I think they saw this young guy just wanting to teach chess, and there's not a lot of young males actually in the whole childcare space. So they were just like, yeah, wow. And yeah, that's how I got my first client, and it was just the best feeling ever. It's just like, yes, there's like all that hard work, you know, sort of vindicated, and it's just like, yes. But the funny thing when you think about it is like 6 kids, you must be making lots of money. It was like I was going in for like $30 a session, but it felt like so much more because I was, yeah, really stoked, and it was really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't worked at 12 childcares.
Yeah.
What are you thinking at this stage? Are you still as confident with this concept, or are you starting to doubt it at all?
No, I just thought I was getting, like, by the time I got to the 13th one, I was getting more and more confident. But,
really?
Yeah.
Even though it was not going your way, really?
Yeah, I was getting more confident.
How?
Because we were getting better at it. We were getting better engagement with kids. First time we did it, there wasn't that much engagement with kids. But each time we did it again and again, there was more engagement. And by the time the stories and the songs came along, this was by the time we got our second childcare, the engagement rose and everything. And I remember the first 2 childcares we got, the first one we got in Sunnybank, that ended up by the end of the year having over 20 kids. So 20 kids in their kindergarten doing chess. It was the most popular program. And the other one, yeah, one in Cannon Hill. We ended up having over 12 kids doing chess and having like 3 kids on each side just arguing and talking and everything like that. Was amazing to see, and having some kids getting really upset, and if he lost a piece, throw the piece away, and like, no, having tantrum, and then going back and just trying to work on emotional resilience. And
yeah,
it was really great to see. And so every time I kept doing it again and again, I was just getting better. It's
right.
almost like working on your craft.
Sure, but what I mean is those first 12 said no, or those first 12 you didn't get anyway.
Yeah. Oh, sure, it's tough, but I just felt like I was getting better. And eventually it will crack. Eventually I will get that first client.
Okay.
Because I was like, I knew this had to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Some people might doubt themselves at that stage.
Nah, but if you believe in something that what you're doing is good enough, then yeah, you won't doubt yourself.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So did you start off selling to childcares or to schools?
To childcares.
Okay.
Yeah, schools weren't even a thing.
Right.
When I first started, like, I didn't want to, the company that I worked for, I didn't even want to approach on their space or anything, just because I really liked what they did. I wanted to do my own thing. I had a little bit of gripes with them, but it was like, I just want to do my own thing. I really enjoy teaching 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds chess. What's the point of trying to branch out into schools or anything like that?
And you were working for this other company as well, were you?
Not at the time. I only worked for them in 2009 when I was still at uni. So by the time I started Chessmates or Leaps to Success back then, it was 2013. So I had finished uni and done all my stuff in state. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you go along. How's the first year? Pitching to childcares and growing the business? How's it go? It
was slowly getting there. So by the end of 2013, I had about 15 childcares, had about 120 students. It was not bad. And yeah, I was just loving it. It was just me. And just like, what are you doing? I'd just go to different childcares, and I was making enough money to pay the bills. I'd also do a bit of tax work in between during tax season, but it was really enjoyable. When I look back now, it's one of the most enjoyable times I had, and just seeing those kids, and especially at the start when I was doing those trials, I remember a lot of childcare educators would come up to me and say, chess. These kids can't even play chess. They've only just been toilet trained. Like, you know, they can run around, but chess, like, basically a couple of expletives, but they reckon I didn't have a chance. And then a couple of months later, when they started playing proper games of chess, I remember one came up to me and just was like, "You've proved me wrong. They can actually play chess." I said, "I know." And it just made me, when I saw those, especially towards the end of the year, I felt like this magician is just like just picking out, or when I see a parent, I just go up to them and say, "I can teach this 4-year-old how to play chess." And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Yep, watch me." And just showing them how to move the pieces, and I'd be able to teach them how to move the pawns within like 10 minutes. And they were just like, "This is amazing." They're actually learning how to play chess, and they couldn't believe it. It's like, "Oh my God, my daughter's only 4 and she's learning how to play chess." And I think some parents really like that idea as well, that their child is actually playing chess from a really young age.
And it must be so satisfying when they come back to you and say, "Yeah, right. Okay, you were right. I was wrong." That always feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels so satisfying, Jack. Yeah, it was really good. And yeah, I'm just thinking back. It was, a couple of good starts where the educators were just like, "Oh, don't know. And being able to prove them wrong, yeah, just one of the best feelings. But just seeing the kids just being able to accomplish something, and they absolutely loved it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the year after this, is that you keep doing the same thing? You're in childcare, trying to grow it that way, are you?
Yeah. I just keep, 2014, keep going with the childcares, starting to get much more interest with childcares as well. Pick up 2 schools at the same time.
Okay, so why did you get into schools?
Why? First one I got was one of the families of one of my clients. She was just like, my other kid goes to Our Lady of Help Christians, which is a school out in Hendra, and why don't you teach there? And we're like, "Oh, I haven't taught in school." It's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You're great with kids. You'll be okay." And then she basically was a client advocate and helped me get into the school. And they were like, "Yeah, we don't have chess here." I'm like, "Oh, I thought chess was like in every school in Queensland." Like, "Nope." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And yeah, it like, I had 4 kids initially, and it was pretty good. And but it was a bit of different kettle of fish, because with younger ones, you don't have to worry about like entertaining the kids. So like, you got to entertain, but they're really tired with the school class. They're really tired at the end of the day. So it's a different type of management compared to entertaining 4-year-olds when you're entertaining like 6, 7-year-olds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talk about, you thought that chess was in every school already. Is that you thought another company was already doing it in every school?
I thought there were several companies doing it everywhere.
Sure.
And I thought every school had their own chess program, and I wouldn't be able to do it because every school had their own program. I should, in a way, stay in my own lane and do childcares.
And did that come from you, or did someone tell you that?
Bit of both. I had one person basically tell me, this was a person who actually got me starting teaching chess in the first place, just basically telling me, "You don't really want to try and compete with all these other chess companies because they will take you down." And I'm like, and I believe that.
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh, shouldn't be doing this. Just do childcares. You love doing it. You make an income doing it. Let's just do this." And then slowly I realised with the second school, it's like, maybe there's not chess in every school in Queensland or in Brisbane anyway. There's not every school has their own chess program. And yeah, and I think a little bit of it was self-doubt as well. It's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm good enough to teach in schools." But as further goes down the line, that completely changed. And looking back now, it's just like, why do I even have that doubt in the first place?
So you start picking up schools. Do you run into any challenges with that when it comes to the competitors? Like, because 2, they're probably not going to really notice you, I assume. Like, if you get 2 schools, they're not going to, they bat an eyelid at that stage? But surely at some stage, they're going to notice you.
Yeah, I didn't want to be found out. No. But eventually I did. And that's fine. But it probably took about 2 years before I got found out. And I was picking up schools here, there, just ones that didn't have programs. A lot of the schools that were actually approaching me.
Oh, nice.
Which was really nice. Or ones where, one in particular, I was actually teaching the principal of this school. I was teaching her granddaughter. And her granddaughter was 2 at the time. And she was like probably a bit harder to teach, and it was like obviously one-on-one. And then seeing her from being a 2-year-old, and I taught her until she was 3.5. And by the time she was 3.5, she was playing proper games of chess, playing the educators, and just absolutely loving it and showing the other kids how to play chess. And that was really great. And her grandma was just like, yeah, let's get chess at the school. And it's a pretty amazing thing. I've been at that school now for 7 years. And yes, just those little things, just like from childcare. I got a lot of schools back then just from one of the parents of the childcare saying, this is amazing, why don't you do it at school? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And they'd approach the school and they'd just be like, yeah, let's get it happening. If you recommend Ash, yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
And so you start doing it at schools, you start growing your client base, I assume, of schools. What's the moment that you notice that the competitors have, as you say, found you out?
That was, I'm just trying to think, probably start of 2016. I ended up being in the Courier Mail and also doing a thing with Channel 7 News as well. I think by doing that, they were like, who's this Ash guy? I think a lot of people within the chess community were just like, who's this Ash guy? Because I'd have no real association with them. And I think that's when I got found out. And I was like, well, if you're going to make the news, you're bound to put a red flag to a bull, so you're going to be found out. And at first I was a bit nervous about people knowing who I am, but I thought, stuff it. If they know who I am, that's fine. I'm very good. I have a very different brand of chess to everyone else. That brand is very good, and it's served me really well.
And why do you refer to it as found out? I mean, you're not doing anything wrong, are you?
No, not doing anything wrong, but it was just because I'm not part of the chess community. So most people who start their own businesses teaching chess, they're within the chess community. They are very well known within chess circles. I'm the complete opposite. I'm very much an outsider, and my main focus is just teaching kids, and loving teaching those kids who want to learn chess for the educational benefits of chess rather than try and become the best chess player in the world. Because if you want to become the chess player in the world, there's so many people out there for that. That's not me. I focus on the other 99% who want to learn chess for the educational benefits rather than for being a chess champion.
Sure.
Yep.
And how did you know that you were on the competitors' radar? Like, is this an assumption you're making because you're in the media, or did anything happen that you noticed? Oh, all right, well, now these guys are going to be keeping an eye on me.
Probably, I think towards the end of 2016, I noticed that they were really nice to me at the start. This company I used to work for, they were really nice to me at the start, and they're nice people. But I think then I got a school where they normally taught the year 3s how to play chess. It was like a lunchtime. Oh, not even lunchtime. It was during. And so on a Tuesday, instead of maths, they have chess, which is brilliant. So good. And the school approached me about it and said, hey, do you want to teach chess? And I'm like, obviously not knowing the whole story, I just went, yeah, sure. Let's do it. And I think from what the school told me, the other company was a little bit miffed by it, but I was just like, oh, what do I do? Do I just say, oh, sorry, I can't do it anymore because this other company's a bit upset? And I thought I do it pretty well, and they've got a whole bunch of different schools and everything like that. And
you've been asked to do it?
Yeah, I've been asked to do it. They came to me, so yeah. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and so we're at 2016, 2017, you talk about how you lost a couple of schools to competitors. Can you talk us through what happened there?
At the end of 2017, yeah, so I lost 2 schools. And, I remember losing one in particular because that was one of the very first schools I got. And it was just before our Christmas party as well. So I remember getting the phone call. It's like, oh, we're not going to go with you. We're going to go with someone else. We want a much more competitive approach. I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And at the same time, it made me think I got to keep tabs on every school, every partner school that we're in. We can't just assume that they're going to love us and everything. You've got to make sure everything's okay. If there's an issue, you got to focus on your defense and making sure that all those schools are very happy with you. And if there's an issue, you got to sort it out. And I probably wasn't 100% attuned to that. And I think with both of those schools, they were looking for a much more competitive approach because they went to companies that had probably a focus on creating really outstanding chess players, where it was just like tactics every lesson, rather than trying to, do puzzle work where the puzzles are more suited to try and develop their strategic thinking, rather than like, this is how you're going to win a game of chess. You do this. And losing those two schools, that was a real kick in the guts. But I think the best thing about that is that it helped me improve. It was just like, all right, this is what I've got to do. And especially the following year, that's one of the biggest things I try to do. And that's still the biggest thing I try and do now. I'm not 100% perfect at it, but making sure that every partner school that we're with, they absolutely are happy with us. They love what we're doing, and they want to see the chess classes at their particular school just grow and create a really good culture of education.
And I hear that, and I think to myself, well, you say that you lost these schools to the competitors, but it sounds like, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that they had the value proposition that those schools wanted, because you said before you don't want to do the competitive thing. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, we do competitive stuff, but we sort of like, that's what parents and kids do want, which is great. But yeah, and that's fine. They wanted to go to those other school companies, and that's fine. Like, they want that real competitive side. That's great. But it made me think, should I do stuff that's a bit more competitive? But then you sort of muddle your unique selling point as well, which is tricky. Like, do you go really for that top 1%, and then you sort of neglect that other 99? But I've always said I'm for the other 99, and if schools want to go for that ultra competitive stuff, that's great. But that's not me. And
it can be really tempting in those moments to change, right? And chase what they left you for.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that both of those schools came back. By the end of 2018, both schools came back to me because, from what I know of, kids weren't that engaged. And most kids who do chess, they love it, they want to learn, and they do it for the educational benefits rather than trying to aim to win state titles or anything like that. And getting those two schools back was a vindication of how our program works. And we teach very good chess. Our chess teaching ability is amazing, and we teach them stuff that the top 1% learn. We just don't focus on that. We focus on everything else as well.
And if you look back on this time, do you feel like you could have done anything about them leaving, or do you just feel like you should have seen it coming?
I should have asked the schools a little bit more what was going on. So that's my failure there. I should have asked them a little bit more. Should I have seen it coming? Yeah, maybe. But it's more me not being proactive enough, asking the schools, is everything okay? Is everyone, like, how you finding the program? That was my fault. And that's the biggest thing I've probably changed with the company a little bit. It's just making sure that every school's happy. And it's worked pretty well. It's not always going to work, but it's worked pretty well since then. Yeah, and just losing those two schools was just a massive kick to the guts. And yeah, since then it's just, but having that moment has really helped chessmates become better. It's usually during times of despair and crisis you improve the most.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I understand that when we talk about adversity, this isn't necessarily your first foray into adversity.
No.
If we can just go back and just have a little look at maybe some of your younger years and talk about some of the adversity that you went through there that maybe prepared you to be able to do what you do now.
Yeah, so basically... basically grew up in... to me it was normal, but I grew up in Housing Commission. Was fine, but I didn't know any better. Like, when I look back now, we had neighbours who were ice addicts, and especially during my teenage years, there was one family who moved to one of the apartments at the back, and basically they've got about 5 or 6 kids. A couple of the kids would sleep in the van, and the other kids would sleep in the house. And it's just like, you know, at the time you think, oh, this is normal, but really it's not. So I think seeing that kind of adversity, was just like, you know, it's for me, it wasn't like I thought it was normal, but really it's not. And you just seem like that's the way that life is and everything like that. And I grew up with a single mum, and obviously like everyone's got their dads and everything like that. But at the time, especially growing up, I didn't think, oh, woe is me or anything like that. I just thought, that's life. You move on. You got to just deal with it, and that's life.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have known any different.
No.
Yeah.
And that's how it is, and wouldn't have known any different, and life's fine.
And you talk about how you say you weren't meant to be a success.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Oh, I just feel like with, especially with how I grew up, I feel like how I grew up in the environment that I am. A lot of people who have grown up in the same environment would have, you know, like we had to be really tight with our money. Don't do a full flush, do a half flush, like having all those money skills, but you not really have those big ideas. Because I feel like with families who have a normal upbringing, it's like aim for the stars, aim for everything. While with me, it's always aim for something steady, aim for something, you know, where you get money and everything like that. Well, you see your neighbours and everything like that, you see really bad habits. Obviously, like you see drug taking and stuff like that, and you think that's normal, and you think, oh yeah, that's great. Should I do something like that? That if that's normal? While with most other people growing up, they're like, yeah, that's not normal. So that's why I think I should have failed. Like the environment that I was in, I should have failed. But I'm very lucky. I'm doing okay, and yeah, I don't know how to else describe it, but I just think housing commission environment, it set me up, like having a lot of adversity, being okay with it. I think it's helped me now, especially just, you know, if anything happens to me, it's like, oh, I've dealt with worse.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So when you're growing up, did you ever envisage something like this?
No.
You didn't?
No. Like teaching chess.
Or just running your own company?
No.
So
No.
you were always thinking you just want a stable job and you just want to get by?
Yep.
That was always the goal?
Yeah, that was always the goal. Just like making sure that, you know, you have enough money and to survive. And I knew in a way that I didn't want to have the same life that my mum had. She had it pretty tough, just having me as a kid, but also just, you know, always having to worry about money. For me, it was just like making sure that money wasn't the number one priority in life. Having a purpose was probably, I was thinking like that when I was about 14, 15, but didn't really have the education behind myself to really go for that, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
So when did that change? When did you think, I want to not just survive but thrive? Like what changed to allow you to
actually maybe like a light bulb moment to be like, right, I want to start my own business.
Something like that. I mean, it has to be a mindset that changed, right? Because if your mind was set on surviving,
yeah,
not thriving, or not building something.
I think when I was at uni, I saw the idea like it's just like, especially at uni, just getting a job and everything like that. But even the idea then of even starting my own business was just, I didn't really think about. I remember working for UQ Sport when I was at uni as well. I was actually teaching boxing to a bunch of kids, which was great, to high school kids and everything like that. And just like they would ask me, oh, can you send me an invoice? It's like, how do you do an invoice? What's an invoice? I didn't actually, like, I was like 21 at the time. I didn't even know what an invoice was. And just stuff like that. I thought maybe I could start my own business doing this, but then the back of my head was just like, nah, don't do it. Finish your degree, get a real job, do that, stay as an accountant for the rest of your life. You'll earn good money, you'll have a good life just doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do a business degree, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I switched degrees late, but I did business with a major in accounting, yeah.
And then you go work for Deloitte, I understand.
Yep.
Yep. So you're still on that track at this stage, obviously. You're still in that mindset of, I'm going to become an accountant, I'm going to do all this stuff.
Oh, I was absolutely ecstatic when I got the job offer from Deloitte. I remember it was 6th of May 2009.
Very specific.
I still have the letter of offer at home. I got it up on the wall, and I thought to myself, yes, this is it. I get to go to Darwin. I get to work for Deloitte. I have this opportunity to actually make a difference in life. I get to, have a stable job, income, and everything like that. And I was so excited. I actually got the job 8 months before I actually started. So it was just like counting down the days before I left Brisbane, and it's like, yep, 30 days to go, 29 days to go, and yeah.
It almost sounds cruel, 8 months out for something that you're so excited about.
It was. Oh, yeah, but I was just so excited. It was like my way out of Brisbane, my way to try and make myself, like being me, like representing my own person rather than just having to stay at home and everything like that.
Sure. And so was it everything you ever hoped it would be?
Deloitte?
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, it was... I absolutely loved my time at Deloitte. It was amazing. I learnt so much. It was an amazing job, but the amount of stress that I had... I started balding at 23.
Really?
I was just like, oh my...
Wow.
Yeah, oh... The amount of duress you had to go through was amazing, especially during audit season. Just ridiculous. And a lot of people who worked there, they were great people, but their work-life balance was crap. Just not seeing their kids a lot and everything like that. And I thought to myself, one day if I have kids and everything like that, I actually want to be there for them. Not having a father growing up made me more realise that when I do have kids, I want to actually be around, and the idea is hopefully like if they do their sports or anything like that, I can actually cheer them on, because I remember playing sports as a kid, and because we never had a car or anything like that, Mum could never watch me play. So yeah, that was probably the dream turning into a bit of a nightmare. But Deloitte is an amazing company, and I recommend anyone who wants to really, like if you got an accounting background or they're an amazing company to work for. And especially the Darwin office, really nice bunch of people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you start thinking to yourself, I don't know if this is quite for me.
No, yeah.
So what did you do?
Kept working, really. Especially because one of the things with Deloitte as well, it was I didn't have a passport. And I remember a couple of days in, one of the guys was just like, have you got a passport? I'm like, no, I haven't been overseas since I was like a baby. And they said, get a passport. And so I did. But a lot of Deloitte with the audit office, their work wasn't in Darwin. It was actually in East Timor. And I was like, oh, East Timor. I remember it being mentioned briefly where in the interview, and they're just like, would you be interested in working in East Timor? I'm like, yeah, sure. And obviously you don't know what it's like, a country like East Timor. It's very different. And so when I got the passport, the next day, yep, I'm off to East Timor. And working on 1 or 2 audits there, and it's a very different world. I remember like the first couple of days, just like the showers smelling like sewage and everything like that. This isn't a hotel, and just being like, oh, this feels gross and everything like that. And not opening doors with my hand, just like using my fist to open doors and everything. And I remember the first time I got there, I got really sick, just like food poisoning, just because I ate some chicken that was in soup, but the water hadn't been boiled.
Oh.
So I was, pretty ill. And then I didn't go back to Timor for 1 or 2 months. And then 2011, essentially from late January till about June, I was pretty much there the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you come back, I assume, in June. When are you making the decision to leave?
To be honest, I made the decision to leave Deloitte probably November 2010, but I wanted to do East Timor. And one of the main reasons why I decided to leave was when I was 19, I found out I had a whole bunch of half sisters and a half brother, and because of that, and I found out my half brother passed away towards the end of 2010, and that absolutely was one of the main catalysts to why I wanted to run my own business, just because you only live once and you want to make a purpose and a difference. And I felt, especially when that all happened, it was still really busy at Deloitte, and I was like, I'm not making that much of a difference. I felt like I wasn't doing much, but I thought if I go to East Timor, I get to experience something new, I get to hopefully make a difference there, then after that I can come back to Brisbane and figure myself out and try and, just do something where you actually can make a difference to society and be a better person. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you come back to Brisbane, do you?
Yeah. After Deloitte, I spent about another month or so in Darwin. It was fine. And then came back to Brisbane just without a job, moved back with Mum. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this was probably about July 2011, yeah. Yeah.
And you get a job you talked about with e-tax.
Oh, yeah. So, that's a bit down the line. E-tax was more 2012. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Just working, I essentially was a graduate tax accountant, and it was really good. So for the first year there was internal, so they've just got this small, I wouldn't call it small, it's about 6-story building, but it's in Mount Gravatt. Well, they're probably like the biggest tax returns now in Australia. They've done a really good job. But and their graduate intake's about 30 people at the time. I was one of those people. And you just do tax returns, and it's all very easy. It's almost like a call center. So people will call up and just be like, hey, can you help me out with my tax return? And you answer their calls, and really enjoyable job.
And has that provided you with the skills that you still use now?
E-tax? A little bit, yeah. Just being able to deal with high volume clients. So like some days with like chessmates, like especially at the start of a school term, you get like 200 emails. You're like, crap, like there's so much, and it can be really overwhelming. But with e-tax, when you're an external, you have to respond to emails within 24 hours. Otherwise your superiors start to call you up and it's like, hey, what's going on, Ash? You haven't answered this email for over 24 hours. You have like 60 emails that haven't been answered for over 24 hours. What's going on? So seeing those 200 emails, for a lot of people, they see that and they go, holy crap. For me, it's like, it sucks, but we just got to work through it. So I think e-tax really helped me deal with high volume, like calls, high volume emails. That was the biggest thing.
And also with your business degree, like you did a business degree and you're running a business now. How did that help you?
It helped. The accounting side helped with understanding numbers. That's probably the main thing. The accounting degree, accounting major, just helped me understand, all right, what's a credit, what's a debit, and and understanding what a P&L and a balance sheet is. That's, as a business owner, that's one of the biggest things you got to understand. I think a lot of business owners still really don't understand the numbers, and that's key, because if you don't understand your numbers, then you're done.
Just the way you wrote about the business degree, when I looked at it in my notes, it was almost like you you wanted to distance yourself from it. You're thinking it's almost as if you're like, it didn't help me much. Yeah,
that's true. It didn't help me that much, no. Other than like the accounting stuff, there wasn't really that much. It's like, especially with the auditing stuff, you learn auditing at uni and then you go and actually do audit in the field. Two very different things. I remember the first day and going to one of my first clients. I remember my senior at the time was like, do you know much about auditing? I said, I did it at uni and I know this and this. And he just laughed at me. He's like, they teach you nothing at uni. And I just went, I sort of like froze. I'm like, oh, crap, what have I gotten myself into? And I think with a lot of accounting, I think you learn a lot more in the field and the practical side. You learn a lot more than from the theory side, because you can learn the theory, but when you apply it practically, you learn so much more.
Yeah, for sure. I think that goes for a lot of things.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah. So, in your first business, Dine Fitness, am I saying that right?
Yeah. Dine Fitness. That's first business.
Okay, and just talk us through starting that and how that went.
All right, so that was 2012. So that was just before I started e-tax, And yeah, it was fine. I got into about 3 schools. It was, teaching kids about fitness. And we also, I went back to the UQ boxing club. And so before they actually ran the boxing classes, me and this other guy, Alex, we would actually run fitness classes, because I thought the fitness side of boxing was there. You can make a lot more money through that rather than actually teaching technical boxing. Because back in the day, I used to run the UQ boxing club. This would have been 2017, 2018. And the club wasn't making a lot of money then, but it was too much of a focus on technical rather than doing fitness. And then when we started doing more fitness stuff at UQ boxing, that's a lot more people were turning up, and there was actually a much better culture. So with Dine Fitness, I thought, yep, let's do the fitness side of things. It's my first foray. It's my thinking of, all right, how do I make a difference to society? It's like, oh, kids need to get more fit. Kids want to exercise and everything like that. Let's do that. And got into a couple of schools, but I wasn't getting, I made no money. And I was going broke at the time, and I was like, ugh, got no money, no clients, I need a job, got this job at eTax, let's scrap it for now.
Okay, and by making no money, were you doing this for free, were you?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was the same thing as starting off with the childcares, where I would be doing trials. And I'd do the trials, and it would be like a lot of like games with kids and like fitness games, almost like a PE class after school. And parents are like, this is great, my kid's knackered. We don't want to pay you though, because they normally just do soccer on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever. I'm like, fair enough. Same with the other schools. They're like, this is great, but don't want to pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it hard to build a business from that.
Yeah. No. And so I think with that, I probably, when I look back now, I probably think to myself, I didn't stick it out hard enough, maybe. But at the same time, maybe I needed to fail with that for Chessmates to become a success.
Mm. Well, it sounds like what you're describing, it basically had no traction at all. So that's very hard to build something
Zero
from there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, we've talked about most of your story now, apart from maybe the last couple of years.
Yep.
Where, Chessmates, so you've been doing Chessmates 8 years now, is that right?
8 years, yeah.
Wow. So after this, we've talked up to basically 2018. Last couple of years, how's that been for you? Especially with COVID.
2019 was all right. Probably the highlight was doing the TED Talk that year.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously teaching kids, that's always a highlight every day. COVID was interesting. At the start, I thought I was done. When it's all happening, it's like, ScoMo's on the TV. What's happening? And you're just in the back of your mind thinking like, I've worked so hard for this. I've gone through hell and back. I've gone through this. I've gone through that. I'm done. But then we all went online and everything, and it ended up being not so bad.
And you thought you were done because you did everything in person and you couldn't see these kids, right?
Yeah, it was all in person. Every school's like, hey, really sorry, got to tell you, we can't do chess anymore. And basically when most of your revenue comes from schools, you think, yeah, I'm done. And it was just such, I don't know for yourself, it was such an unknown time for everyone, just like, what's going to happen and everything like that. I remember in Brisbane in the news, they were talking about putting the RNA as a hospital and everything like that. You just thought this thing is, it's not going to be about if you have a business. It's like, are we going to survive? Mm-hmm. Especially reading the news and watching the news at the time.
Yep. Felt like the apocalypse a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Oh, it's so crazy to think that was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then you decide to go online with your offering.
Yes.
Was that an instant decision? Talk us through how you kind of reacted to the news from COVID and all the schools are cancelling and then moving into the online space. Like, how long did this take? What was the process? So
I already had an online course for like kindergartens, but I hadn't done anything with schools, or even the idea of doing a Zoom class was foreign to me. But I thought, started seeing people starting to do it on Facebook and Facebook ads. But I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. It's pretty much a snap decision where it's like, yep, let's do online class for kids. I'll do them personally. I don't know how to do one, but let's give it a go. And parents were really good about it. They were like, yeah, we'll sign up and everything like that. And it was actually the first time we started getting interstate clients, because I thought, how do we go interstate? But it was just online, and it was really cool that you have like a class of 12 and you've got about 6 or 7 clients that you know really well. Then you've got one client from Western Australia, another one from South Australia, and a couple from Sydney. It was just a really nice mix of kids. And the difference between online classes and in-person online classes, you're talking a lot more because it's basically you with a digital chessboard and you're explaining a whole bunch of stuff, and then kids answer, and you're doing a lot of puzzle work, and kids are answering, and you're talking, and you're being engaging and being a bit goofy as well, which I really enjoyed with the online classes. But in person, you do instructions for maybe about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, about a quarter of the lesson, 20%. About 15, 20 minutes, and then they play games of chess. Because if you sit there and just talk the whole time, the kids are like, we want to play games of chess. So I think with the online classes, what I noticed was kids were actually improving their chess even more because they were being shown how to do things and they were communicating. It was really cool seeing the kids actually talking to each other as well through online. It was, for a lot of them, it's a very safe medium for them, and a medium that they're probably more used to than in person sometimes. Yeah.
Sure. And so has that extended throughout the last year, or have you gone back in person again as well?
Oh, we still mainly do in person.
Sure.
But we've got some online.
Mm-hmm.
And with the recent lockdown, I did a few online classes and they went fantastically well. But yeah, I would have to say it's all face-to-face, and families prefer face-to-face rather than online. I think most kids actually prefer face-to-face. I think it was just that time with online, especially at the start of COVID, it was like new, exciting. Now we sort of know what it is. Some kids will still prefer online, but I'd say the majority would prefer face-to-face.
And you can get so fatigued from all the Zoom calls and everything.
Oh yeah, especially I used to do 3 back-to-back. So it was like pretty much 3 hours of just talking, hearing the sound of my own voice. Oh. But it's so much fun, and just having the interactions with the kids, and just sometimes they'll change their backgrounds on Zoom or whatever, and just I'll play little jokes like, oh, you're in San Francisco now, hey? And just trying to make kids laugh, especially through a screen, can be quite difficult. But when you do that, it's like great. They're having a good time as well.
Cool. And so moving forward now, what are your goals into the future?
Oh, so one of the visions for Chessmates, and one of my main visions, is that I want to be able to, with Chessmates, be able to teach 1 million kids how to play chess by 2030. And the idea is that reverse engineering it, and how do we get there? Because up to now, since we started, we've done about 90,000 kids throughout Queensland, just through holiday programs, through after-school cares. So it seems like a big number, but try and aim for the stars, and if you get close enough, you've done a good job. But just getting kids to experience a different way of chess, like get them to experience our brand of chess, which is like really fun, really engaging, and using stories and songs to help them understand how to play chess. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the main goal.
Right.
And that's the main goal. That's what I'm focused on. 1 million kids learning how to play chess by 2030.
And how are you going to do that, though?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. So online helps. Going to do more holiday programs at various OSHAs and everything like that. Going interstate, that's got its own, especially at the moment with, you don't know about borders or anything, that's got its own issues as well. So like if you want to go to somewhere like New South Wales or Victoria, who knows, they might call a snap lockdown and you might have to go into quarantine or anything like that. So
yep,
that's something down the line maybe. But yeah, that's looking back, that's probably what I might have to do if I want to reach that goal.
And you talk about looking back. What would you say to the person that started Chessmates when you were that guy?
Don't be, focus on you. Don't focus so much on the white noise around you. If people tell you, like, you can't do it, you're not good enough, don't listen to them, because you are good enough. And don't doubt yourself, because I've doubted myself so many times, especially at the start, saying, no, you're not good enough. You're not very good. You're not good enough to teach chess. While now I look at myself, I'm the best there is in teaching chess. I am a fairly good chess player myself. I'm the best at teaching chess. I've got really good engagement with kids, and if I listened to them, I wouldn't be in this situation now. If I listened to the people who said, don't do it, they'll eat you alive, I would not be in this situation now.
And was there a lot of people saying that?
Oh, a few people. They're like, teaching chess. You're an accountant. You make okay money. Why be an accountant? Like, why teach chess when you can be an accountant, earn steady income, and, you know, have a good life, buy a house, have kids, do all that kind of stuff. Like, if you teach chess, like, you're throwing all your degree out the window, and, you know, but you got to do what makes you happy, and you got to do something that you have purpose for. And if you have something where you have a purpose, it doesn't feel like work. And to me, I will work probably the same hours I do at Deloitte, but it doesn't feel like work. It feels like I'm actually making a difference to society, and because of that, I'm so happy with where I am at the moment.
That's great. And so what about some other things that you wouldn't have done? If you reflect on the business journey, what would you not have done had you had your time again, if you had your time again?
Wouldn't have focused so much on childcares early. I would have gone into schools, because I remember going to childcares and we get one client and the childcare like, good on you, Ash, you got a student, well done. While with schools, it's more like you're getting about 10 or 15 students, and when you get to that stage, it's like, wow, this is amazing. All these kids actually want to learn how to play chess. This is great. But in daycare, it's just like you get one and it's like $10, and it's just like, well done. You've done so well. And focusing on that probably for too long, that was my main focus for about 2 years. And I think it probably took me too long to realise that this is not the right way to go about it. So that's probably one of the things I would change. Other than that and the white noise, probably not much. You know, I've taken my time, but, you know, if I went too fast too soon, I would have not, and I tried to scale too quickly, I think it would have all imploded. That's my thought, yeah. So that's probably the main thing I would probably say to anyone. If I was like me 8 years ago, don't go for childcare, so aim for schools.
And don't listen to the white noise. That's pretty good to only have two things that you would change if you look back on 8 years.
Thanks, Jack.
I think that's more than possibly a lot of people can say. But the white noise one's a pretty common one that comes up on the podcast, actually, is that, especially at the start, when you don't have a whole lot of runs on the board, it's when you get the opinions flying in, right? Yeah,
and they just think you're not good enough. Like, you're just like, you're not, and it's more so yourself that you think you're not good enough to do something, and it's just self-sabotage. And I think you're probably, like, we're all guilty of it in a way.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you just, and that's the time that you kind of don't want those things, right? Because your confidence isn't as high at that point.
Yeah.
But you get into your business journey a bit, and if someone says that to you, well, firstly, they kind of don't say it now or later on, because you're not giving off this vibe of maybe you'll listen to it, or that you're not sure of what you're doing, I think. So less people will say it because you've got proof.
Yes.
But also the way you carry yourself.
Of course.
People don't think that you'll listen anymore, and you shouldn't, to people who talk like that.
Of course, yeah. And especially now, I'm so confident in how I teach and how the company runs and everything like that, compared to 8 years ago. Probably another thing is just have confidence in yourself, and, you know, keep believing. And, like, my belief never wavered, but it can be hard sometimes. I think another thing as well, I didn't tell my mum that I was doing this for about a year, and that's maybe another thing I would have changed, where I would have told her straight away, because I know if I told her, she'd be like, what are you doing? You're an accountant. Why are you doing this when, you know, you could just have a steady job? And it's just like, Mum, I'm happy. And I would have probably told her sooner, because when I told her, she was like, if you want to do it, sure, that's fine. And now she's like, pretty, like, she's like, you know, pretty proud of me, and that's always nice.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, right. So you just thought maybe she wouldn't be as supportive at the start, or she would be worried that it wouldn't work out?
Oh, worried.
Yeah.
Oh, she'd be worried. She's like, do you need money? Something like that. Can you pay your rent? I'm like, no, Mum, I'm fine.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, awesome. Well, great to hear your story. I mean, I think that's a pretty incredible journey you've been on. I think you should be really proud of what you built. That's pretty amazing. To hear it all is quite inspiring. So thanks for coming along and sharing that with us, Ash. I'll wrap up in a minute, but where's some places that people can find you if they want to get in touch, or if they want to get onto Chessmates? Where should they go?
So the website is chessmates.com.au. If you want to reach me personally, I've got LinkedIn, or my email is ash@chessmates.com.au.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm sure a few people will get in touch, but thanks very much for coming along and being on the podcast today, Ash. I really, really appreciate you sharing your story honestly, openly, and what a great journey.
Oh, thanks, Jack. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast and clicking on the relevant episode link. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.